Good evening and welcome to this evening's mindfulness program. We're going to follow pretty much the same course that we've been following or that we've been doing over the last few weeks, starting with a focus on breathing, um, and then doing some sort of sense work, listening for the things that are going on around ourselves, as well as sort of tracking some of the sensations in our bodies. And I don't have my timer today because I thought one of the things we might do towards the end of our practice would be to just do a brief loving kindness meditation or mindfulness practice where we, maybe work to resolve or to reconcile ourselves with people that we have in our lives who may have somewhat difficult personalities. So, with that, I would like to invite us to begin. So, as in weeks past, find yourself a comfortable chair where you can sit, a place that's not too overstuffed or comfortable. A chair, hopefully, where you're able to place your feet flat on the floor, um, and have a straight back, but not a stiff back, but a straight back, so that your breathing is easy. Place your hands on your lap and just gently close your eyes, and we'll begin with our mindfulness practice of sort of watching our breath or noticing our breath. So just to begin with, just take some really nice deep breaths in. Just really fill the lungs with oxygen, breathing through the nose if possible, and then out through the nose as well, also again as possible. And just take a moment while you're doing this to make contact with your jaw, your mouth, your jaw, your teeth, and your shoulders, and also your hands. And just if you're hunching at all, just roll your shoulders gently back and down. And if you find yourself with some tension in your jaw, just focus on keeping those lips together and the teeth apart, and just maybe wiggle your fingers a little bit to loosen them up, and just try and keep your toes and your fingers and your hands and your feet nice and relaxed. Let's head back into our breathing exercise. And when you're ready, let your focus shift to sort of the parts of your breathing. So, for example, noticing the air as it comes in through your nostrils or as it passes over your lips. And then as it makes its way down into your chest and sort of pushes out your abdomen and fills your belly. Take a few seconds to really feel the air as it expands in your stomach, and then as your stomach falls back towards your spine. Try to breathe from the stomach and not by lifting the shoulders up. Now let's take a few minutes to check in with our environment. I would just, like we did last week, first try and find that dominant sound and spend a little time with it. If you find your mind sort of breaking away from what we're working on, just gently notice that that's happening, and then as gently just sort of bring it back. So go after that dominant sound now. And try and listen into it. Try and pick up maybe different frequencies or pulses. Sort of try to parse the sound down into its different parts. And now let's see if we can identify a secondary sound, a sound that isn't sort of as capturing of our attention, but that is going on at the same time as that dominant sound. And let's see if we can shift our focus from the primary or from the dominant sound to that secondary sound. For me, since I live near Ignacio Valley Road, I can hear the sounds of the cars passing, and that's my secondary sound. And bring your attention back to your breathing, and especially just focus on the experience and the sensations you feel sort of around your nostrils and around your lips as you draw that breath in. And now let's spend some time sort of doing a little bit of scanning of our bodies to just sort of see what sort of sensations are going on in our bodies right now. As we did last week, let's start with our feet. If you're wearing shoes or sandals, just notice first the parts of your shoe or your sandal that the foot is coming into contact with, especially. Or if your feet are bare and they're on the ground, then sort of focus on the parts of the foot that are in contact with the ground, with your floor. And try and kind of have the experience of sort of walking around the surface of your foot and just sort of examining what parts are in contact, or you're feeling, in contact with either the floor or your shoe. For example, try and see if you can pick out how different toes feel in contact with the floor or your sandal or shoe. Try and get a sense for what part of your foot seems to have the most weight sort of focused or concentrated on it, like the ball of your foot, or maybe your ankle or your heel. And check for any more sort of global sensations, like, for example, the sensation, a little bit of like a tingling sensation that you might have now that you've brought your awareness to your feet. And now let's shift our focus to our hands and do the same sort of thing. Look first to find those parts of our hands and our fingers and our palms that are in contact with our legs, or maybe the arms of our chairs, if that's where our hands are. And just try to sort of walk about the surface of your hands and notice how the different fingers feel, for example, or where the majority of the weight seems to be concentrated. If your fingers are a little spread out, try to kind of feel the space between them. And check in with your hands to see if there's any sort of global feelings of like a tingling or a numbness, or any sort of feeling that you kind of feel throughout the entire hand. Like, I feel a little bit of a tingling sensation in my hands now that I'm paying attention to them. And again, if your mind drifts, it's okay to just notice that. Don't beat yourself up about it, and then just gently draw your attention back to your hands or whatever it is that you're focusing on. And let's bring our attention back to our breathing here for a few breaths. Just really notice the feeling of that air coming in through the nostrils and filling the belly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a loving kindness sort of practice. And I want you to think of somebody that who's really with whom your relationship right now is maybe not all that it could be. There's a tension there, or maybe some hurt feelings, or some sense of hostility. And it could be from them to you or from you to them, but just a relationship in your life where there's a sense of brokenness. And if you don't have a relationship with this, you can still do this meditation or this practice with someone that you love. But what you're going to do is you're going to call that person to mind. You sort of identify who they are. And then I want you to imagine some really pleasant sensation. Like the sensation that I always go with is, because I love it so much, the feeling of warm sunlight on my head. Sort of that experience we have early in the spring when it's starting to be less cold, and you walk into a ray of sunlight, or you're standing outside a building in the sun, and you just feel that beautiful warm sunlight just warming the top of your head and your shoulders. For you, maybe it's it's something that you like to eat, or just think of some simple pleasure, and just take a moment to imagine what this simple pleasure, what it feels like to experience it. Maybe it's the feeling of wind just sort of gently ruffling your hair, or taking a bite of a favorite dessert, for example. Just the texture of the cake or the ice cream in your mouth. Now I want you to imagine this person that you're struggling a little bit with right now. Just imagine them experiencing the blessing of that sunlight on their head, or that wind, gently ruffling their hair, or that first bite of a beloved dessert. And just focus on their having that experience now. And just focus on wishing them to experience this blessing. See them, experience, allow yourself to experience their contentment, and, feel their smile, and just their sense of being at home in the world. The gentle joys of this world, God's tender mercies. And let your heart towards them soften a little bit. As you imagine them experiencing this blessing. And then come back to yourself, and imagine yourself experiencing that same blessing. This is a practice that you can direct towards yourself when you're feeling bad about yourself, or you're angry at yourself. Just imagine one of God's blessings being showered upon you. Just feel that warmth on your head, or that soft breeze, or taste that favorite dessert or meal. And just allow yourself to wish and to, to wish for there to be blessings in your life. And now let's bring our focus back to our breathing. Check those shoulders to make sure they haven't hiked up in the meantime. Just roll them back and softly down. Relax the hands, relax the toes, relax your jaw, lips together, teeth apart. And feel that air just pooling outside your nose and then kind of rushing in through your nasal cavities and then down into your lungs, into your belly. And feel sort of the soft drop as your stomach moves back towards your spine as you exhale. Couple breaths more. And open your eyes. So thank you for joining me in this evening's mindfulness practice. I hope this has been an opportunity for you to hit the reset button, so to speak, a little bit on your day, and to kind of grow in your awareness of everything that's going on around you when our minds are sort of busy and cluttered. Recognizing that there's always ways of grounding ourselves in the present through sound, through our breath, through sort of tracking the bodily sensations we have, and ways of preparing ourselves or opening our hearts to people that we may have difficult times with. That sometimes picturing God's blessings being showered on them can be a way to sort of melt that hard, piece of ice that may be kind of lodged in our hearts when it comes to that person. At any rate, again, thank you for joining me. Amen.